Hormone expert Dr. Robert Lustig is convinced that for years, the food industry has been pushing the idea that obesity is a personal failure, the result of laziness and weak willpower.
Everyone thinks that obesity is about energy balance. That is, calories in, calories out. Therefore, two behaviors, gluttony and sloth. Therefore, if you're fat, it's your fault. Therefore, diet and exercise. Therefore, any calorie can be part of a balanced diet. Therefore, don't pick on our calories, go pick on somebody else's calories. This is actually what the food industry uses to assuage their culpability for the change in the food supply and the rise in obesity and chronic disease like diabetes.
If you look at the biochemistry of the human body, it's designed to fully use the energy that comes in through food. Energy is burned not only through physical activity, but also through internal processes happening inside your body.
What happens to energy in the body? 65% of that which is ingested goes to resting energy expenditure, just to power the body. 10% goes to the thermic effect of food, and then 25% goes to activity. That's the breakdown of where the energy goes.
That's why fat burning should happen naturally on its own. What slows this process down isn't a lack of discipline, but chronically high insulin. As long as insulin stays elevated, the body simply can't pull fat out of fat cells, even if you're fasting, even if you've already hit your 10,000 steps. And the most troubling part, according to Dr. Lustig, is that you may not even realize what's driving your insulin so high, because the main cause is often hidden in the foods you buy at the store.
Any substrate that passes your lips that contributes to either growth or burning, that's food. Okay, let's do it. Let's do burning first. I just showed you that sugar, which is the marker of ultra-processed food, and 73% of the items in the grocery store are spiked with sugar, inhibits burning. When you ingest glucose, you're getting a big glucose excursion in your bloodstream. So you're getting a big glucose spike. And that glucose spike has to come down. Well, what makes it come down? The hormone insulin. Insulin is the bad guy in this story. The higher your glucose goes, the more your pancreas will release insulin in order to bring that glucose down. Insulin takes whatever you're not burning and puts it into fat for storage. Insulin is not the diabetes hormone. Insulin is the energy storage hormone.
To learn how to control your insulin, Robert Lustig suggests looking at the experience of people living in China. He points out that for decades, obesity rates there stayed surprisingly low compared to the United States, even though rice and noodles were a daily part of the diet. The reason for this contrast isn't the kitchen itself, but habits that start much earlier, right at the grocery store, with how the shopping basket is built. According to Dr. Lustig, you don't need to spend hours reading ingredient lists to choose the right foods. It's enough to use a simple, clear system you can understand, like the NOVA classification.
It is called the NOVA system. It just means new. But he has basically categorized every food anywhere in the world into one of four classes. The easiest way to explain this would be an example. Let's take an apple. Nova Class 1 would be an apple picked off a tree. Nova Class 2 would be apple slices, destemmed, deseeded, deskinned maybe. Nova Class 3 would be apple sauce, cooked, macerated, possibly a preservative added, maybe some extra sugar, maybe not. Nova Class 4 would be a McDonald's apple pie.
In simple terms, when you walk into a grocery store, you should mentally divide all foods into just four categories. The first category is food in its natural form: vegetables, fruit, fish, meat, eggs, legumes. The second is minimally processed ingredients: oils, spices, vinegar, fermented foods. The third is processed foods with a short, clear ingredient list you actually understand: canned fish, traditional sauces, simple bread. The fourth is ultra-processed food, where sugar and fructose are hidden under dozens of different names. There's no need to rush into cutting things out completely. To keep insulin under control, your weekly shopping basket should be about 60% foods from the first category, 20% from the second, 15% from the third, and only 5% from category 4. It's important to understand that, according to Dr. Lustig, foods from the fourth category should be a temporary adaptation tool, not a regular choice. Ideally, you would avoid everything that contains added sugar and trans fats, but doing that all at once is extremely difficult. So, to avoid stress, small allowances are okay, even repeated ones. Just 1 week is enough to feel how a properly built shopping basket affects insulin levels in your body. And when insulin stays consistently low, your body naturally goes back to burning fat on its own.
If you get the insulin down, you're not shunting energy to fat. You can lose weight. Your fat will give up the triglycerides stored in it as soon as your insulin goes down. Insulin is pushing on your fat cell all the time. And as long as your insulin's up, your fat cell can't release it. The minute your insulin goes down, you can now engage in what we call lipolysis. Hormone-sensitive lipase is an enzyme in the fat cell that is inhibited by insulin. As soon as the insulin's gone, hormone-sensitive lipase can turn that stored triglyceride into free fatty acids and glycerol and release it, and you can lose weight.
It's just as important to pay attention to discipline around mealtimes, something that's very common in China. Many studies have repeatedly shown that food can be helpful or harmful depending on when you eat it. Take carbohydrates, for example. Cutting them out completely is hard, but they're often the main trigger for insulin spikes, unless you eat them at lunch. A lot of people underestimate this meal, even though it's what gives you energy for the second half of the day. In the morning, insulin is already naturally higher, and in the evening, glucose spikes interfere with deep sleep. That's why carbs make the most sense at lunch, when your hormonal environment is the calmest. Dinner should be early and built around protein and fiber. That combination keeps you full through the night without food and doesn't overload your digestive system. Breakfast, on the other hand, works best with more fats. They're a steady source of energy. They don't push already elevated morning insulin even higher, and they suppress hunger hormones, so you're not distracted by constant snacking. I've also shared a detailed list of foods and the best times to eat them in the group community. To keep getting this kind of practical, health-focused information, make sure to subscribe to the channel. According to Dr. Lustig, even doctors sometimes overlook a key point. To control insulin, you also need to take care of your gut. A damaged gut barrier and a poor microbiome create chronic inflammation, and inflammation makes your cells effectively deaf to insulin.
Your intestine is outside your body. Okay? I mean, it's inside, but functionally, the lumen is outside your body. It presents a barrier. Okay? It's a sewer in there. Okay? And the goal is to extract the nutrients from what you eat without letting the bacteria or the cytokines, the lipopolysaccharides get across into the bloodstream. Because if they get across into the bloodstream, then they go via the portal vein straight to the liver and induce inflammation. So keeping your intestinal barrier functional and optimal is absolutely essential to metabolic health.
Traditional Chinese diets are rich in fermented foods that feed the beneficial bacteria in your gut and help build a healthy microbiome. Kimchi, homemade yogurt, kefir, all of these support gut health, protect you from inflammation, and reduce insulin spikes.
The one thing I would be careful about is yogurt. Okay, so there are yogurts with live cultures, and there are a whole lot of yogurts with dead cultures. And if it's a yogurt with dead cultures, it's kind of irrelevant, and the chances are they've actually covered up the sourness with sugar. So, large commercially available yogurt, be very, very careful. Okay, if it's a artisan yogurt, made by people you know or trust, that's a very different story. Yogurts with live cultures.
In the end, this comes down to 3 simple, practical habits that guide you from the grocery store to a leaner, healthier body. First, divide foods in the store into 4 categories and build your shopping basket the right way. Second, organize your meals around the right timing. And third, take care of your gut health. Give it just 1 week, and you'll start to feel the difference. Fewer hunger attacks, less snacking, and fat that seems to melt away before your eyes.